Let's call a meeting to order. It is the Jamaica Selectboard for Monday, March 11th. We have two pieces of the meeting tonight. The first piece is the organizational meeting wherein we make the select board officers, choose them, and we also make the town appointments. The second piece will be the regularly scheduled select board meeting. Before we get into the organizational, real quick, just to my head for some timing purposes, I've already had to add some late additions to the agenda that have come in just in the last day or so since I put the agenda out. Is there anybody else with anything else to go on the agenda tonight?
Yeah, I mentioned to you that I have some prices for doing the ceiling of the town hall.
Okay, if we can get that in, let's make sure we get everything else done. And then that's
Really,
important.
because I'm gonna run out of money come June,
Okay,
so.
okay. Hearing none, those are the only ones I have so far. We'll move forward on that. Next item of business is we're gonna do the select board officers. Probably the first one we ought to deal with is the chair. And to go into that, I'm going to yield the chair to the assistant vice chair lieutenant to do this, since the chair ought not to be doing this, for the chair position. That'll give me time to let my voice rest.
I guess we're taking nominations for chair, select board chair for 1 year.
I'll nominate Paul if you'll still have it for the term of one year at select board chair.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Let me say this, I'll go ahead and take it for this year. My last year on the select board, which will be starting in 2020, I won't accept the chair because when I'm gonna have 1 more year as a select board, I'd rather have an overlap. So the next chair, I'm still here, so I can provide any assistance just to keep continuity. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need a vote?
Yes.
Or any discussion?
That's all discussion.
There was a
I'll second.
first and a second, any discussion? All those in favor of Paul serving another year for chair?
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Unless you want.
And just to show you the kind of guy I am,
This year, maybe.
Yeah.
we are now accepting nominations for the vice chair. Do I have any nominations for the vice chair? The current incumbent is Andy, as it turns out.
I'll nominate Andy if you'll so have it.
Is that a nod?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well,
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, sir. We're off. Okay, the next, there's a sequence of town appointments that we need to go through as a routine. And so I brought the list, and I think I have it accurate, so let's just go down the ones we need to do. We have a list of these that are unclear to me whether they are accomplished by the town meeting or this one. I just want to make sure we've got them logged in as
I
such.
believe they're different.
Well, I've got, like, for example, I've got Steve Clark as a fence viewer. Is that one of the ones we do here as an appointment? But then we've got the health officers, Andy, and that was something that we did.
Bill, that's outside of here.
That's not, like, that goes to September.
I mean, it's not really outside of here, but it's full.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go through these and we'll try to make them work. I have Steve Clark listed as a fence viewer. Any thoughts? I have heard nothing
Did
from
you
him.
get rid of that fence viewing thing, or was there one other layer of coal and
There's a
whatever?
layer of coal that's
Still
coming
vacant?
down.
Yeah.
That's vacant.
We talked about it, I don't know if there's any authority at our level to get rid of it.
Right. Some of these things
No, I
are
was just curious.
are embedded in the history, and where's our history people? Let's blame it on the history people. But there are some things that we have no control over, so they're just vacant. But we have Steve Clark. Shall we leave him in place? Steve, he's gonna own it, because he's also anyway. Animal control officer is Rob Willis. My understanding is he's still willing to take that. We have the surveyors of wood, lumber, and weigher of coal. That is vacant. I'm not sure that's even something. I mean, we still have fences to view, but I don't think we have any coal to weigh. The tree warden is Ben Williams.
Did anyone, has anyone asked him if he'd like to do that?
The tree warden?
Or do we just appoint him?
Well, that's a tough call. What has happened in the past is everybody's just continued unless they've come back and said no. I did write a letter to the 911 coordinator asking her, because there was some question about whether she was interested. When I get down to that, I have not heard back. So we can talk about that when we get down to that list. But everybody else historically have been pretty much routinely considering. These are not jobs that take a lot of time. I don't know that we've surveyed any wood. Ben Williams has been active as a tree warden back when we were working on Irene. And there was periodically we had to do some things with trees.
He's been in that job for a long time.
Yeah, and he took pride in it. He was anxious to be involved when I used him for Irene. The health officer is Andy, and you're until September 2019.
Right?
Okay. Deputy health officer Joel Beckworth, I have heard nothing to the contrary from him either.
I
Have you?
think he's still in his appointment because he was appointed after me, I believe.
Yeah, he's still in to the best of my knowledge, yeah.
It'd be in the report, I could look in there.
The cemetery sextons, oh, there you go.
No, that's okay, go ahead.
The cemetery sextons, East Jamaica, Jamaica Village, and South Wyndham, that's L. Bruce Chapin. West Jamaica, South Hill, and Pikes Fall is Karen Amadin. I know she and I have talked. And the Rossonville is Nelson Coleman. In my experience with all of them, they were all comfortable in that position. And very active and helpful. Emergency Management Director is me, and I'll probably be giving that up as soon as we stop having emergencies. Rescue Inc. rep is Stuart Barker. My understanding is he's interested in continuing that position. Energy Coordinator last year was Chris Clark, but I've been told that he's not interested in continuing. So we need an energy
What
coordinator.
does that entail? I'll do that, I'll do that.
You want to do that?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, do you have some energy left over? You
A
want
little bit of energy.
Good, baby. You'll get over
What
that
kind?
quickly.
Solar?
Flood Zone Administrator is Lou Brusso, and he's still interested in that position. The Wyndham Regional Commissioners is Joel and Andy, both of you are on. You sent me a letter. Are you still interested in continuing? No, time out.
Does that go from when you're appointed to?
Well, let me clarify. This says Wyndham Commissioners. You guys aren't commissioners. You guys are in the Transportation Committee.
No, we're
Commissioners.
Are you commissioners as well?
Yeah, we elected them commissioner.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I know they were in the Transportation Committee, but I couldn't remember how that operated.
Well, I'm in 3 committees, so I mean, that's not appointed by the town.
No, that's all under that one.
Right.
Yeah. I remember the Transportation Committee, but I didn't remember how we worked that last year.
We elected him so he would have voting rights.
Right.
Okay, so the both of you are the
We
commissioners.
were elected at the same time? So they're both up now?
So you're, I
Well,
think,
it's during the organizational meeting where it's traditionally reconfirmed or not.
yeah, that's my understanding. It's a year appointment.
Yeah, we were elected last year,
Right.
yeah, at the organizational meeting.
Appointed, actually.
Appointed.
Yeah.
Elected by the select board.
I thought,
No, appointed.
Appointed.
the first meeting I went to was down at Newbrook, and it was like in August or something, but I could
We-
have
You
been.
were later.
We dragged our feet, so to speak, a little
Yes,
bit.
I think.
Okay,
I'm
that's
pretty sure that we were.
the same night, yeah, but it was not.
Right, but
was
it
later.
was not immediately in March, I don't believe.
Was it?
No, it was like August, I think.
Isn't that when
Like July.
don't you commissioners rotate your meetings to different locations?
Yeah.
The-
Yes.
The general meeting is rotated.
Yeah, so that could have been,
Fall commission meeting was the first one I went to.
Right.
It was in August, that's why I know. It was like the next day,
okay,
you know, it was at the fire department.
that makes sense.
And I believe we had vacancies on the commission for that time leading up to that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So can we assume that both of you are still interested? I have one yes, do I have a maybe?
Yes,
Okay.
I can change committees if I want, once I get down.
That's with those guys? Yeah, exactly, yeah. Okay,
If I wanted to.
We have on the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Adjustment, we have, last year, we had Christopher Robbins, Rebecca Owen, Brian Ziroff, and now we have 2 more, correct? And I have letters from everybody. I have
You
letters
want to
from
reappoint it,
Rebecca, Pat McQuillan, I think I got one for everybody. Christopher Robin, Brian Ziroff, and Jason Cass. So all the members have requested to continue. I think you guys are doing a pretty good job, so I have no interest in shaking up that obviously well-tuned team. Okay. The next is the Recreation Committee. I have Bob Johnson, Julie Olson, Caroline Person, and Matt Winkler.
Yeah,
Is that still accurate?
I know Bob Johnson and Caroline are both still interested. I don't know if Julie is, and I don't think Matt, his son, is now at Leland and Gray, so my guess is he's not.
So we should just cross him
I
off.
would cross him off. As far as, yeah, I talked with Caroline, she said she would continue to do it because of the uncertainty around the school and
Sure.
how that would work out.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll throw my name out there if that's fit in to be part of that.
if you'd like.
You want to be on there? Excellent.
You want to be the treasurer?
The treasurer.
Because I still check with somebody.
Okay.
Not up anymore.
So we'll add Greg to that list. The next on the list is the Village Beautification. We have Cameron Ammon and Joe Dumas, and Lexa has been, I guess, talked to them and is interested in being on the beautification committee as well. Is that all right with everybody? Any questions or additions? Fire Warden is Stuart Barker, he's still active. Assistant Fire Warden is Joel Beckwith. And my understanding is he's still a backup in the last couple of conversations that I've had. 911 Coordinator, Erica Bowman. I sent her a letter because it was, unlike a lot of these other positions, this one is actually paid. So I needed to get something, hopefully in writing from her saying yes or no, and I got nothing. So I haven't heard from her yet. Our options are, and we should consider, just taking that function back into the town office. We get most of the information comes to us, and then we would send it out to her anyway. If it's coming to us, it just skips the middleman and gets the job done more quickly and with less shuffle.
And what is that position?
This is a 911 coordinator.
Coordinator.
I'm sorry, 911 coordinator. It involves basically, giving 911 addresses to places that don't have them. You have to go out and measure where things are compared to other ones. And that's something that we've discussed. We think that's something that the town office could handle. Unless I hear otherwise, I think that's probably a good way to go.
So it's very limited, it's only for new residents and new locations.
Yeah, if you
right?
don't have a 911 address,
Yeah.
like anyone that's building on a lot or anything
Right, right.
like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we'll do until I hear other, we'll go that route.
Who's going to do that? The clerk?
It'll come into the clerk, and then we'll have to decide how best to manage it within the clerk and the treasurer.
Right.
It's like one of those things, they get all the requests and they get all the complaints and everything comes into them anyways. Just one layer of bureaucracy we can do away with.
Add any more on to the clerk or the treasurer?
You know what I think there may just
You're
be,
both okay with it?
yeah, they're both okay with it, but also it cuts down the level of having to follow up more. One call in shouldn't get it done, and then we can take care of
It
it.
may ultimately not be any more work.
That's my thinking, yeah.
Don't you think has she been asked about whether she wants to continue
I
that?
wrote her a letter last week.
Oh, okay.
And I have not heard back yet. So, Senior Solutions is Janine Stone. My understanding is she's interested, but I haven't spoken to her
I
myself.
suspect she is.
The WSWMD, which is, watch this, Wyndham Solid Waste District, Waste Management District. It's Judy Flower.
I really am not in a position any longer because I'm not the supervisor, and I think the supervisor needs to be the person who relates with the Wyndham Solid Waste.
Okay, so take your name off. Right about now supervising the waste is Greg.
Transfer station.
Are you willing to get involved with the district?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, sir. Next item is the,
Do I get an assistant?
Sure.
I think so.
There has been one before.
I'll be the assistant if you want me, I can do that.
Is there one on there?
No, we don't
Well, I
have,
had been,
He-
I had been.
we created that. WRC Transportation Committee, technically speaking, we don't assign the Transportation Committee. We assign the commissioners, and then they decide at that end.
Right, and you have to apply to each committee and they have to.
Exactly. So I'm gonna just line that out.
You can say you're not sure and you haven't made up your mind and they'll still appoint you to a committee.
That's the thing, if you don't show up for these
Make us
meetings.
well represented on the transportation committee.
The other thing happens, if
Rightly
you don't
so.
show up for a meeting, you're
Yeah.
always the chair or something like that. It's a way that works.
Getting back to some of the other positions that we discussed, a little bit more involved. We've got the road commissioner. Andy Coyne's the road commissioner right now. Andy, are you willing to consider continuing as a road commissioner, or would you like to?
I'd like to ask if anyone else was interested in it. If anyone has some real concerns about the roads or wants to get involved in Act 146, 8.
I don't know, let's try.
If not, I have a good relationship with the road
And
crew.
good working knowledge of what's going on.
Well, not as good as they do,
Well,
but if somebody else wanted to do it, you know, you're not gonna hurt my feelings by,
Well, it's within keeping of what Paul had said about a transition. I mean, I'd love to be in a transitional role for a year just to kind of learn the ropes. So to speak.
well, I'm just the liaison for the road crew, really, to the select board.
Right.
So we're all privy
We're
to,
all the same boat anyways.
well, you can go over there and check it out or see what they're
Pretty
doing, I
important.
imagine.
It does have the effect of being the person they can
It
call in a
can
hurry.
get pretty busy and interesting in the wintertime.
I'm sorry?
Do you want an assistant?
You help
An
any,
assistant?
we don't.
I don't
have
think-
the select board.
Yeah, in a sense, the way the law, excuse me, the way the law reads, the select board is the road commissioner, and he's the coordinator, he's the
Like the liaison between.
liaison
It's
between.
a point person.
And some, I don't have, the description is brief and precise.
You know,
It's a pretty simple job, really.
His job-
There are some things you're involved with in the state sometimes, but I don't have it all in front of me.
most of it involves, so they don't have to call somebody. Decision needing to be made today, you can't wait 2 weeks for the next meeting. So that power is vested in the road commissioner, so he can make sure things get done. Things that require, or something that can tolerate a 2-week wait, that's one thing. But the day-to-day kind of stuff that has to go on, plus he ends up as the filter for a lot of the complaints.
But a lot come through the office too,
Yeah,
more so. If anyone's still interested.
So just a quick question, it does not actually have to be a member of the select board? It could
Right
be.
now, I think it does.
Oh, it
I think it
does?
does.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was my question.
well, that's because the select board is in charge of things, and so it's a liaison.
But the select board is empowered to nominate someone who's not actually on the board. You would have the power to delegate.
Well, but we're talking
I mean,
about,
if this is, I
Sure.
don't want to be picky.
it's not big, the point is, it's a liaison between the select board. So to have someone outside the select board liaise between the road commissioner and the select board, it just adds another level of bureaucracy that just gets cumbersome.
Although some towns do that.
That's not my experience.
Towns do that.
They do have
I
a,
think so, I don't know of one right now, but.
That's how boards work. They identify the best person to reside the activities, and if it's better than someone who's on the actual board, they delegate to that.
I appreciate that, and we have,
But I'm only
Yeah.
saying this as a matter of point, not.
I hear what you're saying, and we have positions that are like that.
Okay.
And I think that may be something we can do historically. What I'm reluctant to do, every time I step outside the stupid lane that they've given me, I find somebody who's got a connection to a lawyer someplace who says, oh no, the Vermont state law says you must do this. And then I have experts who sometimes show up to say, look, well, you didn't read this piece. I go, So while I'm not against that, I plan, I'm just trying to defend what's happened over the last bunch of years that I've been here. It's cowardice, pure and simple cowardice on my part. Okay, so Andy, Sheriff's Department Representative,
Hold on.
Yep.
Did you vote for me to be the commissioner, or are you just gonna let me keep doing it?
if you want to.
Okay, so nobody else.
I'm reluctant at this point to change our
Okay.
path, yeah, I'd like to.
And I don't feel comfortable stepping in, but I'd like to get to learn it a little bit better, or just,
We're all gonna be learning when we have to
I
put
wanna be
new,
yeah.
do all the, you'll be hearing more about that.
Okay, Sheriff's Department rep.
Can I ask
More and more.
a quick road question?
Not yet. You talking about the roads? Let's wait till after and bring it back under, public concerns. 'Cause we have a lot to get done tonight. Sheriff's Department rep.
Yes.
Tom is still up for that. Okay. Transfer station supervisor is now Greg. Assistant transfer super,
I'll do that.
you wanna do that?
Yep.
Newspaper of record is the Brattleboro Reformer, and the minute taker, the town clerk is Sarah Wiswall. And we meet the second, fourth Monday at 7 p.m. Any changes to that? Meeting date or time? Is that working for everybody? Okay. And in this location. All right. So that slate meets with everybody's approval. We'll move on. Let me rephrase it. If that slate meets with everybody's approval, we'll move on into the regular select board meeting. It's about 23 minutes after 7. Okay, late addition to the agenda, I have several that have come up. I hit that already. We'll add them and we'll put them back in here. We're going to approve the minutes of February 22nd select board meeting. And the minutes were sent around electronically. And I think everybody has a copy in their books. I have one note. And only one note, as it turns out. In paragraph number 5, the bill has been presented to the legislator. Legislative is what is written. It needs to say to the legislature.
Where's that?
Number 5, where it says the bill has been presented to the legislator. It's just,
Legislature.
yeah, the legislature, the body, not the,
I would also like to add to that line, or that same, where it says no, they all agreed not to support the tax. I think we should actually, I believe we took no action. I know there's discussion opposed to the tax, but we didn't really vote on not supporting it.
so we agreed to take no action?
Yeah, we decided to table it.
Okay, well, we didn't
Not to
table it,
table.
then we'd be talking about it today.
No, oh, okay.
Yeah, so let's say we agreed to,
That no action was taken.
they all agreed to take no action in support of the tax.
Until we got more information.
To take no action in support of the tax. Okay, that sounds like a good idea. And from what I've been able to gather from the news, we're not the only towns that feel that way.
Right.
Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes with the alterations and changes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes from the February 25th? Hearing none, they are passed as amended. Thank you, thank you.
Aye.
I don't know.
Oh, we got to vote. Thank you for reminding me. We have a new position called the remind the chair to vote
Reminder.
position. Yeah.
Chair.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, we're moving forward. I should apologize for my voice. I don't know how much I've got left. I spent a long, long time on the phone with the Rivers people. It's another story we'll talk about later. If it dies, we'll punt lateral to the left here. Approve the time sheets for the town office, Lister's Highway Transfer Station. We'll move those to the end of the meeting, as is our usual. Sign the select board orders, and we do that just so that everybody doesn't have to sit around while we sign stuff. Okay, move this out of the way. We had a request from Rebecca Ohm, who's the chair of the Planning Commission, who asked to speak to us a little bit on the topic of the town energy plan and to coordinate a date for us to have a joint session with the planning committee. Rebecca.
Possibly a couple of dates, I hope, for the.
Sure, would you explain to them, I think everybody got a copy of her letter, because I forwarded it to everybody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the energy plan first?
Well, that's the first thing, yeah, just,
Okay,
what,
yeah.
what do you like to see done?
I'm actually going to delegate most of that to Chris Robbins, who's the primary author of the energy plan.
Well, thank you. We finished the draft of the energy plan. We've sent it to the WRC. We've got tentative approval from them. So the next thing that we should do is go through the formal approval process, which involves sending it to adjacent towns, the planning commission holding hearings, and then you hold hearings, and then you vote on whether to accept it or not, at which point it'll become part of the town plan. Now, the last time we gave you a copy to look over, you had, as I recall, 3 concerns. The first was that you didn't want to tie the hands of yourselves or future select boards. And I think Charlie Peck answered that pretty extensively and clearly, that it's part of the town plan. You can change the town plan when you see fit. So, but it's binding law until you do change it. The second was my use of a phrase, enlightened self-interest, which wasn't understood the way I intended it to be. So I've gone through and gotten rid of all that and made clear that I'm talking about economic interest of our residents and the benefits that renewable energy will bring to them. I forget what the third one was, but I'm sure I addressed it.
I'm trying to remember the third one. I remember the light and self-interest, and I knew what you really meant, but it just, God, I'm trying to think what the third one was. Anybody recall? See, the problem is you do such a very good job putting it together, and it is a pretty extensive document.
I've added
Over 50 pages.
two things since then. One is a 3-page executive summary, which tells you what I'm going to tell you. And I propose putting that in, replacing the energy section of the town plan with that, and then making this big plan an appendix.
I got you.
So people wanting to read the town plan don't have to slog through all this stuff to get the idea of what
That makes sense.
what we're doing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the energy maps are an appendix to the energy plan, which illustrate our defense of the ridge lines, basically. We're using 2 maps of solar potential and wind potential and the wind is broken into industrial, large industrial, small industrial, and residential areas where there's wind potential. And we've accepted those as the WRC gave them to us. We've overlaid the parcel maps on each one of those, so parcel owners can see what applies to them. And for that matter, solar or residential wind companies can see who to approach, to market systems. And then the remaining maps overlay our conservation areas, our proposed conservation areas, the rural resource areas, environmentally sensitive areas like the bear corridor and the deer wintering area, and state, town, and federal land on top of where the wind energy is. And when you take away all those areas, there anything left for industrial wind, which was the point they're trying to make. So there isn't any place you can put it that it doesn't basically come in conflict with something that's important to us and is in our town plan as areas we want to protect. So that's it. What we're asking is for you to take a final look at it. We don't want to go through the adoption process only to find out at the last minute there's something that you have concerns with. So that's what we're asking for now.
The adoption process is quite lengthy. We have to transmit the proposed plan to all the towns 30 days before the first hearing. And then there's a second hearing, and actually the plan itself doesn't become ratified officially until Wyndham Regional actually ratifies it at the very end of our process. So it is lengthy. We basically wanted to get on with the process so that they are ambitious goals. I mean, to achieve 90%
It is. It's very
renewable by
ambitious.
2050. But I think as Chris made really, really clear in the plan that many of those goals are dependent on technology advancing in the meantime, and there's a lot of really good prospects that that is going to happen.
Does anybody have any questions? I have one. Last week, the town voted 2-1 in favor of the water project. Does that change anything that you have in the energy plan? Obviously, that's not a done deal, but it's moving forward. And I'm wondering if that's built into your expectations, or does it change anything?
The only thing I can see as a possible conflict is if you go ahead and do the water project and locate a well in a perfect spot for a solar array.
Oh.
But
Not good.
otherwise,
I'm sorry.
if you, in part of it, there's a discussion of how many acres you actually have to have for solar array footprint to meet our goals. And it's so small that it's, that's not going to be a problem. So no, I don't think so.
Okay. So we can move forward with the plan as written, even with the new information.
I have a question. Like the town plan, there's a 5-year time frame when it has to be looked at and rewritten. Does this energy proposal have also a number of years that
That's a
it
good
is-
question, and I did find that out. Actually, I talked to John Bennett at Wyndham Regional, and he said because this is such a major change to the town plan, it effectively would start and it's actually 8 years now, not 5 years. So it would actually start that process over again because it's such a major change to it. So at least that's how he feels. That he may not be the only one deciding, but that was his guess. So then that would give us 8 years from whenever this energy plan is adopted. We would basically be adopting a whole new town plan because it's so substantially changed. And then the 8-year clock would start ticking again.
So what then are you proposing now is you've got this package, you want us to, we need to go over it before we send it out to the other towns. We need to, at least as a crew, agree on it.
Yes.
All right? Given the new changes, you sent the,
I sent to you.
you sent the thing out, that's the current, one. That's not what's in the changes.
March 1st.
Yeah.
It is with the changes.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah.
Because I know there's an awful lot in there, and I know as I'm going through it, I couldn't remember what was there before and what isn't.
Actually, there's one graph that we had to fix. It's on page 6. But other than that, you have the full thing.
As I went through the thing, the first thing I had, this was before the town vote, but I wasn't sure that was going to take. And then when this thing happened, my brain kicked in, and it doesn't happen often, but it did actually have that question. Any other questions?
When does the current plan expire?
It would be 8 years from November of 2017, which is when that was adopted. So, but making this amendment in that meantime would essentially trigger or invoke a new 8-year timeframe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either. That's why I asked John Bennett.
So is there any specific deadlines? Very specific deadlines for the energy plan? I mean, we obviously want to act on it, but it's just to kind of roll it into the town plan.
Right. We're going to
As soon as we
make the
can.
energy plan as an amendment to the current
Right,
town
but
plan.
there's no very, very specific energy plan deadlines.
Actually,
To adopt the energy plan, I kind of recall there was, but I don't remember.
there
I
was.
think there is.
Okay.
When we were operating under, we had gotten grant money for Wyndham Regional's help in doing this. There was a deadline for that, but we completed that work by that deadline. So this is just basically polishing and getting approval and going through the rest of the process.
if somebody wanted to put a wind tower on a ridge line before you approved it, that, unlikely event would cause a problem, but there's no hard deadline for approving this.
And if somebody did want to drop a tower on a ridge line.
If that were an issue now,
Yeah.
but it's not. So there's
Presuming it were to develop, say, tomorrow, that's got some state status reviews that are gonna come to the town anyway. No one could do that without, in a blind setting, it could not just do it.
Well,
Correct.
what having this energy plan that complies with Act 174 does, it actually gives us substantial deference.
Insulation.
With the Public Utilities Commission, that if someone did apply to do something like that, because we have gone through this process and created this Act 174 compliant energy plan, that our weight, our voice will have much greater resonance.
Because it's my understanding, as you mentioned, right now, we have very little to say about whatever the state wants to do, absent a plan specifically about that topic. That's the way I understand it?
And that's why we did this plan,
Yeah. No, I
so that we would have a bigger voice and more say.
Yes,
Still-
I like the word bigger because the fact is that when we have a disagreement, even the town plan is not something that always is followed. The state always has the final say.
We can just try.
Right.
And it's
And I
within our
think
power to increase our
It's
arsenal.
worthwhile
Yeah.
trying
Yes.
to do that, but
And I have to really give a shout out to Chris. He put most of the work into this and did all the computations and laid the basis and the groundwork and did a lot of the research stuff.
If I could just add to that a little bit, I'm not convinced I understand everything, but having said that, your writing is pretty clear. It's actually in English. I'm tracking this stuff and, well, that makes sense. And then my brain got shifted into one of the gears, I had to come back to it. But it is written in a way that is understandable and it's in English. And I, for one, want to thank you for that.
We gotta thank Rebecca for the English.
Oh, she's good.
I'm the copy editor.
There we go. Whoever's responsible.
Whatever. We're all a good team.
Right.
Actually, in the previous iterations, as we were working on the energy plan, Lisa Mann, Brian Zero have all contributed in big ways. So.
You guys have
spell check.
So we need to, what exactly do you need for us to do tonight?
We want you to say, okay.
Okay. Okay to your wanting us to say okay.
no, isn't that a vote?
Have we- That's not exactly a vote. Is there any further discussion from the select board members? We need to have a motion to instruct the planning commission to go forward with the energy plan as presented to us.
As the new energy coordinator, I will
Yeah, we good, we
make a
got-
motion to have the planning commission move forward with the energy plan.
Do I have a
A
second?
second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? The only thing is, and this goes back to my own weakness in understanding what the hell we're talking about, is that there is a caveat in there where we can back up if we need to. This whole business of energy is a moving target. Between the wind power, between the solar power, between somebody wanting to put all electric cars in the state of Vermont in the next 24 minutes, there's an awful lot that's a moving target. And I just want to make sure that we have an option to correct whatever path we take.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, that was my understanding.
Yes, that is your
At any
understanding is
point,
correct.
Oh, good, it's correct.
Even
The president
hydropower,
has his way
too.
with the efficiency and renewable energy budget.
Yeah.
You've
Cost is,
made that clear all along,
yeah.
to me.
I mean, we really are technology dependent, and
Sadly, yeah.
we don't know the real schedule for that, and nobody does.
Any further discussion? All in favor of instructing the planning commission to go forward with the town energy plan as presented to the select board electronically, as it turns out? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, so moved.
Thank you. All right.
And now you have part two.
Part two, okay. As you all know, I sent email about the flood regulations. So the last time they were looked at was in our that they were updated and modernized was in 2007, which was a long time ago. And in the meantime, we had a big flood. So we've been working with Lou Brousseau, who is very eager, as are we, to modernize the regulations and to maybe make tweaks to the administrative part of the flood zone regulations, the special flood zone areas, not drastically changing them from the ground up, but making them clearer, making them easier to understand, putting a lot more information on the town website so that people can actually look and see, okay, what can I do? What can I not do? What do I need a permit for? What do I not need a permit for? Just basically helping people understand them better and make it easier for Lou as administrator to enforce them. And what we want to do is modernize and slim them down and again, make it easier for people to find out just by going to the town's website what they would be allowed to do with the property in terms of the special flood zone areas. Lou's been on board with us from the beginning with this, and he recognizes that he probably won't be the flood zone administrator forever. And by creating a framework and more explicit instructions and a process for all of this, that whoever steps into that position after he's not there anymore will make it a lot easier for the transition to happen. Am I putting it in the way?
No, that's where we were.
Okay. My backup team there.
It's pretty good, you have a backup team, backup team.
Right.
Good visuals.
We feel like it's just a really good project, and we think that people really are sometimes in the dark. I mean, Lou has told us about how people come to him or don't come to him and say, oh, I thought I could do that, when they didn't really know the answer. And so we're not changing anything drastically. We just want to make it more clear and more enforceable and better for everybody, really.
That actually dovetails with one of the things I was going to add in the other ones. Reason why my throat is gone, I spent way too much time on the phone talking to Todd Benise, who's the River Corridor Manager, about a Rivers and Roads training program that's coming up. That's going to address lots and lots of issues about how rivers do whatever they do, pretty much what they want to do. And that I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, but that's dovetailing the same ideas to keep all of us on board with the latest thinking and the latest training on that. So
Yeah,
we need to get dates.
So one of the things that happened with the flood was that we learned a lot that we didn't know. And people who thought they knew, ran into problems. And so it's good that you guys are kind of straightening it all out again.
I think there were historically, way back before any of our time here, problems with record keeping in the early days of being part of the federal flood insurance program. And one of the things that we would like to do, and again, Lou is working with us on this, is to go back and try to reconstruct some of those records so that the proper record keeping, as much as we can, will be corrected.
So you would like an opportunity to read the plan?
Yeah, so
together?
we thought having joint meetings and publicizing them, because this is an issue that people care about. I mean, it's their property. And a lot of people are uncertain about what the regulations say, and they don't even know if they're actually in a particular flood zone. So we thought that by having joint meeting together, we would get more public involvement and more ideas.
Would you expect that to be here or over at the town hall? If you're expecting it, opening it up to the public, you're expecting a
I
pretty
would
good.
think we could dug it over there if we expect to get more people.
It could certainly be. I was trying to figure out some dates that would be workable for all of us, and I did get a response from Judy, thank you. But I had thrown out 2 dates that were possibles, but they're really coming up, and if we wanted to push it out later, that would be okay too.
Because one is like the
Next week.
17th.
Yeah, March 18th,
18th, yeah.
and April 8th was the other one.
So the purpose is to actually have open conversation as opposed to presenting
Yeah.
any revisions.
Right, yeah, and we have some ideas that we'd like to, in our discussions with Lou and other flood people, excuse me, from Wyndham Regional, things that we'd like to work on, but I want it to be an open process. We all want it to be an open process.
Okay, on the 18th is the school information meeting.
Oh, right, I remember that from the town meeting. I didn't know that when I sent this letter.
Yeah, so that's gonna be attended by lots of people.
Right.
So we might not wanna conflict with that.
There's not going to be any actionable items on this.
No,
So
it's
informational.
It's just,
But if information, we like the people who are gonna try to be
Right.
informed to be.
Yeah.
Yes, it has to be properly warned.
well, it would be our regular meetings anyway, so it would be warned. It would
It's
just
being warned anyway.
Yeah, of
Sure.
course, of course. So then I think we're looking at April.
Let's see, the first.
That is a hard, actually, we're just going to be coming back from the trip then. What about the 15th and possibly the 29th?
15th is open on my calendar. What does the board look like?
Yeah.
We'll shoot for the 15th. Can we shoot for the 15th and then see what happens?
Yeah, we can.
What's that?
Oh, wait, is it
That's tax day.
tax?
Yeah, we're
Then everybody will be here anyway.
We'll be all done from that.
Hopefully you're done.
Doesn't-
Yes, hopefully you're done.
Anyway, it's the ninth.
Right.
We can celebrate.
I don't know if it's gonna be a celebration. I plan on doing it at night.
Yeah, that'd be desperation night.
Well, if we could shoot for that.
The 15th?
See what happens at the first meeting.
You want to try for the first?
I'll try.
Let's set for one meeting for the 15th,
Okay.
for all of us to get together and see how that
And then we
goes.
can decide at that meeting when.
If we need any more
If we need
meetings.
another one. Okay, that's fine for me too. Okay. Great.
When you said the 2007 was the last time, what,
Yes.
Jamaica looked?
So the planning commission, before I came on board, they had actually done some preliminary work on it and they'd identified some issues. But they got caught up in doing the town plan then and they lost a member, actually 2 members. So I think it was hard for them to actually plow through the rest of that. So I'm just kind of picking up that bag from, where the previous planning commission.
And we know, but some people might not know that we don't set the floodplains.
No,
The
yeah,
town of Jamaica.
right,
You
right.
guys meet at 7, right?
Yes.
7 o'clock on the 15th.
Yep, yeah.
And they've been shifting too.
And we can do that at the town hall?
Yes, we have to
Um,
That way.
find out if anything's going on.
Yeah.
We can check.
Sounds good.
I would think so.
Do we want it filmed?
Yeah, right.
Oh,
It's a regular board.
Yeah, I think it was
I
there.
would think so.
It's not our meeting, it's theirs.
It's their meeting. So they would be coming in, they'd be adjusting their schedule because
It's on the 3rd,
Oh,
because
okay, I thought they were combined. No, okay.
better week.
if we have a pretty good level of participation, I think it'd be a good idea. But I do think it is of enough import to everybody in the area that filming it would make sense to me.
Yeah.
So if, I'm not going to task you with that, if you could contact BCTV tomorrow and give them the date and time,
Exactly right.
if that works better because you may have other things on your schedule.
They'll find something.
We look forward to it. Okay.
All right, that's great. And I will send along, I'm writing up sort of a brief little history of what happened from
Sure.
various sources, so, and maybe some bullet points, some of our ideas that we are going to talk about going forward. So, cool, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Oops.
Sound fun.
Okay. Next on the agenda is item number 7, this discussion of sound problems. We had some difficulty voiced to me and others that it was hard for people to hear us. And we talked about having microphones. You said that we had mics. at one
We have
time?
mics, yeah. I have to go and check it out. I was told that the mic cords are missing from from town hall. But yeah, with the PA system, yeah,
We could
when we
put
do
a PA
shows, so
system.
we could very easily just set up microphones and have speakers, yeah.
Okay, I wasn't sure if we
Yeah.
needed to buy mics or something
But I-
like that.
We
I
should
will-
not.
oh, okay, sorry. I just wanted to say that I believe the sound voices project better from the front of the stage. And it
Yeah.
appeared that all of us were in the back,
For some reason.
we sat way back, and maybe just a redesign. I know at other town meetings, not even everybody's on the stage, they're down in front of the stage, but that it may not have to be all electrified, so to speak, but just a point that we were back and we may project better if we're in the front.
Well, given the amount of communication and conversation we have with the public, it may be smarter, an option, is to put the select board up at the front. And we didn't get a lot of, I mean, the JPs are there, but they're there for counting primarily and other kinds of issues, and put them like in the front row down off the stage. And that would put all of us right up there in the front where we can be seen and heard. And because I'm not sure, I know they're kind of behind you guys and sort of lost in the,
That was just an observation that I had, that may solve the problem.
This could be a matter of one microphone.
The curtains
like-
actually deaden the sound.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't project because it's just all hanging around.
you know,
there.
I think moving up to the front might be in it.
Yeah.
But it's good to check out the mics too, just to make sure.
I thought that we
The
used
mics
to
are
be
easy.
up front farther than we are now.
I don't recall. Seems to me. But anyway, so let's make a note to do, next year, let's try that. We'll put the town clerk and the treasurer up there, and then have a board for the board, and then stack the others, and nothing against the other people, but I'm just trying to get the communication a little bit easier. Yep. We'll try that.
Okay.
Does that
We
make
can set
sense?
a microphone if we need to set a mic, so it takes.
I check that out, good, good, because we may have opportunities where we want to be heard someday. Okay, excellent. Under the heading of stuff we've added late, what I already touched on, got a letter from Todd Manise, who is he was my go-to guy during the flooding. He is the river, I don't know exactly what his current title is because he got promoted. But anyway, he's running a course that's coming up specifically for the rivers and roads. It's a training program. Select board members are invited, as in addition to road people, anybody involved with how the roads are being designed or developed. But most importantly, the best part of this is a piece of the course I've already taken, which was pretty interesting. They have it's called a river flume table. They set up a sand table, and then you, as part of the group, as an exercise, make changes in the sand and watch how that affects the erosion. And it sounds kind of, like kindergartenish, but I'll tell you what, it's really impressive. But that's coming up in May. And I just want to let you all know I sent you a copy of this. I gave a copy to Keith, actually. Sarah gave a copy. But we're all invited to this thing. It's happening May 29th and 30th. And I just want to make sure everybody has a heads up. In this letter,
Where is it?
it's being held at Win Hall, Garage.
Okay, I didn't see that. All
But
right.
they're gonna also have a field trip where they go out, and one of the things they like to talk about is the Goodville Bridge, because it presents a real good example of how the rivers do pretty much what the river wants to do, and how we have to kind of cooperate with rivers as opposed to force them to do what we want them to do.
All right.
And one of the most common questions was asked to me during Irene was, why can't the river go back to where it was? And the answer was, because it doesn't want to.
Right.
We could try to force it, but it's gonna win in the end.
Goes where it wants to.
Exactly, so this it's not just a classroom exercise, but it's got the flume table, and then there's field trips, and they're gonna talk specifically about that. And I will probably have some voice back before then. But at any rate, so I want everybody to have a chance to get this. You guys already have it sent, and the rest of you who are interested in doing that. And there's a video, I sent you all a copy of the letter he sent me. There's a short video on this class, and I sent you the links in the email. If you want to get an idea what's going on,
Okay.
it's only about an 8-minute video, but if you take a look at that, that gives you a good idea of what the class is all about. But it was a really interesting class, I will say that. Okay, that was that one. Next one, we have the overweight permits, we've covered those. We're not covering those. The overweight permits that I had put in here, there's really no real point in the select board having to do with all the overweight permits when we're going to just give them to to the road commissioner anyway, and the marching orders are fairly clear. So unless you would like us to consider them.
No, I would bring to the board any concerns I have.
Okay.
Mostly the people going without permits. but-
That's the ones that are the problem, yeah. Generally, people who pay the, whatever fee is, $10 or $5, and go through the process are pretty conscientious.
Right.
Historically. I agree with that. Okay, so we can fix that by scratching that line. Next, on our list of fun things that just came to my attention, we got a letter from Stuart Barker, who is the person who gave us the estimate for the work on, excuse me, the work on the
Sills.
sill. You talked to Stuart about
Two
this?
sills. No, he did not, actually, I even sat across from him last week at town meeting, so he didn't mention it.
Yeah. Well, the letter is dated the 7th of January?
January said that was the original estimate, that's the.
That was the original
Oh,
estimate?
yes,
Okay, then
right.
this revision just came
And
in.
we passed that.
Yes.
As acceptable.
Exactly. And so the revised on the 6th of
And
March.
also, let me add this, because this is something that I'm learning all of the time, that the preservation group had to also accept it, and it has been accepted.
As written or as the new way?
No, as written, the
The new
original one,
The original,
so,
okay.
yeah, so we have to do that every time we do anything to that building, is to get their permission, because of the relationship that we have.
What Stuart wrote was, revised on 3/16/19. He says the original estimate was for treated lumber sills, which apparently is not allowed. So, he's going to have to install kiln-dried Douglas fir 8x8 sills instead of treated 8x8s.
Okay.
And the difference between, well, in two different locations. It's $662 more for the 25-foot stretch and $956 more for the 46-foot stretch, for a total of $11,718. And the original,
Is that the total bill then?
yeah,
Okay, the total was 10-3.
10-1.
oh, I had that too.
10-1.
You gave me that, didn't you?
10-1.
10-1.
Yeah.
10-1, so now it's 11-7.
So 11-7.
18, okay.
But it's one bid? Or
Well,
is it two bids
it's
for the two pieces?
this one bid for both pieces. Remember when he looked at it,
Right.
he said, you gotta do the rest of this stuff. And so,
But we're okay with
well,
that being on one bid?
I think so. I think it's one job, it's just two sections. Is that correct?
Same vendor,
Yeah,
you
well,
wanted it.
yeah, he's going to do the two sections, the front and the back.
Yeah,
So, but that was all in that one,
yeah, the total.
right.
And the truth is, the other information, you didn't know about this extra kiln dried factor either.
No.
So that would jack up any other bids, and he was still the lowest
Right.
bid.
When I submitted it to the preservation, that's when I got the response that, and I passed that on to him so that he knew
Yeah.
what was going on, and then that's his response. I didn't know that we had gotten that until
You just get.
Sarah told me today or something.
Yeah, just came in.
So it's the regulation evidently that we can't use materials that were not available. Does that make sense? At the time of building?
Just think you have to be consistent with.
Or original?
Yeah, the
was
original, right.
So,
That's crazy. but-
Yeah, so
I mean-
that's the reason why the sills are different.
so the question that comes to mind is, do we have the original 1800 version of Wi-Fi in the building? Yes, sir.
The question is, why,
Before, can you identify yourself to me?
Patrick McMillan, why not just use local materials there that would go with this building here then, as opposed to importing kiln-dried Douglas fir?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't have the answer to
the
that.
expense, and you can probably use a local mill to saw it for it. I mean, I don't know what the total was, and I wasn't trying to question Stuart, I don't even know, but it was $1,500-$1,800 more.
No, together maybe.
Yeah, it comes out to about 1,500.
Yeah,
They won't let them Put pressure treated.
Well, they
Right.
use like
Right.
kiln hemlock or something.
And-
You don't have to use pressure treated, it wasn't, none of that building was used pressure treated.
No, and that's the reason why he had to give us an update on the new bill, is that we were not allowed to use pressure treated nor any kind of combination like plywood.
What I was suggesting is using a local material.
Can we ask Stuart to quote it with local
I
hemlock?
mean, it's your own.
Or at least get his feedback to say if it's a viable alternative?
Well, he's probably going to get it from R&K, is that
I
it?
don't know.
Which is low,
We don't know where he's getting
Which
it
is
from.
local.
No, he's responsible.
I know.
It's not local.
Yeah.
I like Patrick's idea, but do we have the time? That would be the
Yes.
question.
You were
That is
talking
the
about-
question.
Yeah,
Because I lose my money come
we do have the window.
I
June
mean, let's go
30th.
back and forth with.
Well, what's his timeframe for completion? What's his timeframe right now for doing the work? It's sometime in May, is what I understood.
Yeah, it will be very close to the end, but I think from what I've talked to Paul about, as long as the decision has been made to go ahead, then
Right.
he has summertime to perhaps do it, if he runs over the June 30th date.
I would like to throw it out there, I mean, I think that's a great idea, I mean, to actually just get his feedback. I mean, maybe he just says, hey, the local material's not gonna be
Yeah, I mean,
viable, but
he
ask,
can explore that himself as the builder.
yeah, ask for a
Wants to.
cost
Would you like
and,
to contact him or do you
Yeah,
want
I'll
me
talk
to?
to him about
All right,
that.
if you give him a call,
Okay,
and I can get you a copy of this tonight.
okay, that'd be
And
good.
then let's check, that's a really good idea. I mean, I don't know anything about wood.
I do.
That's good, that's why we have you here. Obviously serendipitous. Okay, so, Patrick, hold up thought. Listen, Judy, I've got you for the, opening the bids. Can we go to him first?
Okay.
You had a quick question?
Yeah, Jason Cass.
Yeah.
Not a question, more just to add on to dovetail what was said so far, in terms of the, not only for like this job, to ask about the hemlock, from like, if it would be okay, to ask the Historical Preservation Society, like, if something like a local hemlock from a mill could be used down the road also, if not for this job, then
Sure.
going forward, if there's other things that come up that might be even more expensive, just to find out if that's an okay approach. Because it seems like it makes sense and it's in keeping with the spirit of what they're trying to do.
Sure.
So it's worth asking them as well, in addition to the builder, getting some feedback from the Preservation Society.
That would be a good question to ask. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, yes, yes.
I restored a building recently, and it was advised to me to use I use local hemlock instead of pressure treated, which really is only rated for 35 years. The material that was removed from my building, which was 150 years old, was hemlock. So, just a point of information.
Okay, so you're gonna check in on that. How about that, Mr. President? And I would like to step out of the role of chairman just for a minute to ask a heretical,
Hypothetical.
no, this is heresy we're talking about.
Radical.
Uh-oh.
I understand in the abstract what the Historical Society is trying to do to maintain these historical buildings. But the practical piece of me says, really people, this is the 21st century. Can we not do things upgraded a little bit from the way it was done 100 years ago? Learning what we've learned from what was done. And I throw that out. My throat is closing up, so God is punishing me for that. Or the Historical Society is punishing me for that. And I will back up. But it just bothers me in the back of my mind that what are we getting for all this? I mean, we're literally being led by this agency to take care of our stuff. And I'm not sure what we get out of it, what the trade-off is, except a warm feeling in our heart. And I don't have the warm feeling. Sorry, yes. Oh, wait, time out. Back to the chair again. Yes, ma'am.
Jessica Pollock. So I think there's a balance, right? One of the things that we're so proud of in this state is that there are so many buildings that are standing after more than 100 years because they were built in such a brilliant fashion. So it's that balance between preserving, like the discussion we're talking about, There are kiln dryers that we use all the time that are local families, and they use processes that are hundreds of years old, and they produce wood that lasts 150 years. But you're right, then there's Wi-Fi and there's modern, you want to do a mixture. There's so much really beautiful and strong techniques, especially in this state,
Yeah.
that are worth the preservation. So
Part of my brain understands that. I'm living in a house built in 1830. Hope to God they did it right, because I'm not going to make it for the next 130. I do understand that. At the same time, the practical piece of me says, if we're trying to run a town in the 21st century, how many hoops we have to jump through?
Then let me just add to that, I mean, Coleman's could cut the 8x8 for the sills out of hemlock simply, and they probably have it air dried. I'm not trying to complicate the issue, but pressure treated material, the southern yellow pine that comes out of the south, Douglas fir comes out of the northwest coast, they're kiln dried. It's okay to have local material, and it's more practical and less expensive.
Sure.
And you're paying the local guy.
local.
It's not, one thing is greener than the other, it's just a nice thing.
I clearly yield to your expertise, because you've obviously seen evidence that I have none. So I appreciate that, and I think that's worth looking into. I do have a lot of respect for Stuart, and I do know he has always done a very good job for us, but it's worth looking into.
Yes, please.
Yes. Okay, the next item. How much time we got? We got a few minutes.
The one thing, just very quickly about that particular building, it is, they consider it one of the few auditorium buildings in this whole area. So we're very fortunate to have it as part of our community. And I think worthwhile.
Did you get funds from them?
keeping up. I haven't gotten
Didn't
funds,
they-
no.
What, wasn't?
We have gotten a lot of fun,
Well, no,
actually.
Isn't the funding based on the fact that it's maintained as a historical building?
Yes,
Following the
exactly.
regulations?
Yes,
So we are
that's
getting
where
funds.
it originally came from.
Sometimes.
And I'm not
Sometimes.
sure how many thousands of dollars that they got in order to restore it. That was about 8 or 10 years ago that happened.
All right, well, that answers part of my question.
Okay, speaking of the same building,
Yes.
one of the things that is happening, if you've been there lately, like town meeting, the ceiling, and I had mentioned it last meeting that we were here, is peeling. And I have gotten 3 bids, and they are literally all over the map in terms of what it would cost. Basically, what we're looking at is the white section of the ceiling, not the wooden framing that kind of crisscrosses, but it would be where it would be like plaster part. So, and it would be the entire auditorium area along with a little bit of work in the entrance of the building. The first one I have is from Pikes Falls Painter, and the scraping, peeling of the ceiling, oil prime plaster after removing loose paint, and applying 2 coats of exterior grade latex paint. And the reason why he talked about latex is the fact of the changes in temperature, going from 20 degrees up to 90 in the summertime. So, and he's also talked about, and I've got to follow up on this, gold accent to the wood edges if needed, as discussed on the red work that's up there, which is wood. He claims that at one time they were, I don't know, do you happen to know?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like saying there's gold trim?
Yeah, like gold
round?
trim,
I don't
exactly.
know.
Right.
No, not what I've seen.
And that is estimated 24 hours for that at $45 an hour. The materials would be $250 and it would come to $1,330, and that's Pikes Falls. The next one is Norm Holden from Newfane. And scrape the area of the ceiling that is peeling paint on light colored sections, meaning the white patch. patch any cracks that are necessary, prime, I guess that's oil, with prime sealer finish coat.
All,
What's that?
all.
Oh,
Prime,
all.
all with primer.
Okay. Finished coat with, section with finished cutting paint? Is that what that word is?
I don't know.
I don't know what paint to match color. Oh, okay. Touch up spots in end extreme,
Ceiling.
ceiling on.
Entrance, in entrance ceiling.
Oh, entrance, yeah, okay, on red parts peeling paint. And his total with the work and materials would be $6,800. And that's that one. And the one that I just got today, that's the reason why I put it on the listing. This is from Ray Wilcox, who is from BMW, which is BMW painters. I think they're out of Chester. And this would be scraped where needed, wash, tape cracks, and apply 3 coats of compound, prime, and 1 finished coat of paint. We feel that there are 2 problems with the ceiling: fluctuating temperature and creating expansion and contraction. Also, the ceiling may have moresco, which is a quote on it, and he has explained to me that it is the old-time plastering that was used. Andy, you can probably talk a little bit better about that.
He's saying, it's pretty self-explanatory what he's saying.
Okay. And it could start peeling anywhere, anytime. So we are not guaranteeing any of the ceiling, and he wants labor and materials $15,000. So you can see we're all over the map in terms of money.
It's a chalky plaster ceiling.
Yeah, he showed me, actually, and he even gave me a chip of the paint that was hanging, and you can just wipe it like that and get it on your hands.
Right.
Did any of the other talk about warranty or anything?
No.
Would they back it up?
Is this Moresco thing an issue with the repainting over it that the others haven't identified?
Well, he's also was gonna put on 3 layers of
Mud, I
coating.
don't know
He's gonna
why.
mud the whole thing to maybe, again, can
Yeah.
we do that? Will that change the building?
I don't know, that's why I'm hoping we have our expert here on the panel.
Well, they're all experienced painters.
Yeah,
I mean, she asked me for a couple of names, and I said BMW because
Yeah. the other one did not respond to a couple of phone calls, so.
I'm just shocked at the price variations.
Yeah.
I mean, one is 10 times as much as the other.
I don't think, you know what, I should almost disqualify myself from making any comments, but one is really inexpensive. I mean, you gotta set staging up in there.
Yeah.
You gotta get to every single one of those squares.
Right.
It looks like there's 1,000 edges. And then, and the experience I've had with plaster is we used to have to, it depends what they used, you'd have to prime it with oil, and if they wanted paint, put a couple coats of, we put oil paint back then, but I really couldn't second guess these guys. The prices are in line on 2 of them.
You mean the 2 top ones? Okay.
I wouldn't even be surprised if someone said 20 grand for something like that, if they could stand behind it. But I wouldn't dare to approach something like that just because of what Raymond said, that might crack up and. So that's kind of a tough
I don't know
one.
what we can do. I mean, it's one of those things that we have to do something.
Right.
Because of the requirements of the historical nature of the building.
And it is getting worse.
Yes,
I mean,
it
there was
is
one
getting
spot
worse.
last year, a couple years ago, and now it's a
Right.
number of spots.
Actually, when you look at the whole ceiling, it's all over the place, a patch here, patch here.
Yeah.
So it really is increasing.
So Judy, back to the original theoretical perspective, are either one of these going to be rejected by the Historical Society because it doesn't meet the ancient
That's a very
value?
good question.
Maybe they know something else that
They have the final say, believe it or not.
and then if they made us commit to something, that'd be good, actually.
Yes, the other.
I think that you need somebody to address exactly what that stuff is. Because the problem is that most of these guys are talking about sealing. Because the problem is that whatever is on there, the paint can't adhere to it. So then you have to seal it. But you have to know what to seal it with.
Yeah, well, that's the oil.
Well, maybe. You
That's
can't
what
put oil over latex. If somebody's put latex on it, you can't put
BMW
oil.
said that that is, someone else was going to put oil too, the first one.
I think they all said oil.
Is the plaster cracking itself?
Somebody wanted to put exterior
No,
latex on
it's
it.
the paint that's peeling.
It's just a
Sealing off.
Yeah.
Is there any way that you can take this information or kind of composite to the historical people and ask them if there's some rules that we're going to run up against before we make the decision on this one? Because it sounds like there's just so many different pieces to this that are unknown to us.
I certainly can do that.
We could actually talk to who did it last time, and I mean, it lasted 8 years, and what did they put on it, and, you know, for the lower price, you could do it every 8 years.
Well,
It's an awfully big job.
I think that the top, when it was put on the first time was improper.
Right.
So,
Is there someone who could evaluate it who is not making a bid?
Well, I think
I think
I think Norman's bid is accurate on,
Who's bid now?
Norman Holden Painters. The way you go about it with oil, wood patching, oiling it,
Yeah,
and, you know, to put exterior paint
yeah,
inside. I know that like hot air rises,
right.
but exterior paint inside, the smell never goes away, even if it's latex. I don't know if it would walk down, but you can't, I've never heard, it says not to do that on the can. But to read the can once in a while, you may think you know everything about it. But I like, I mean, if I was gonna have to do it, I would go at it something like how Norman's talking. Raymond might know something, I've never heard of putting compound over it.
Well, the problem with Raymond's is that I'm not sure we can even fund that 15,000 because I only have 20,000.
Right.
And with Stewart's new bid of 11,700, that subtract that from 20,000, so that's how much I have to play with.
Well, how about if, say we picked one of these, and then you submitted it to your person?
Yeah,
See what, maybe she has some,
yeah, we could
I'd
do
be
that.
surprised if they had more input than what we got in the estimates.
Yeah, because I actually have contacted five painters. And I have gotten 3 bids. So it's not that these are it. Others that just said, no, not interested.
The only other thing would be to contact a plaster man and see what he says about just redoing it and leave it unpainted. That's what they used to do with it, just leave it
Just leave the
alone.
plaster white.
Yeah.
And then whenever we did mess with it, like I said earlier, we used real oil on it. And then the fad went back to just diamond finish, leaving it.
The question is, could we get the paint off that's on
I
there?
don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I was
We may be
hesitant.
stuck.
I mean, just setting up this, covering the floor and setting up the staging,
Right,
you know, Norman mentioned that he was gonna do all that. I
yeah,
imagine Raymond would too.
yeah.
There's no other way to get up there.
Can you plaster over what's there now, or do you have to
I'm
strip
not
it
sure.
first?
I wouldn't think so.
It's
I'm
because
not a
of
plaster guy.
Moresco. So, So basically, what do you think I need to be doing?
It sounds like the consensus is to take Norm Holden's bid.
That's just my opinion.
Well,
You guys,
You're the pro.
well, don't put all that on me and the thing falls in.
We're your assistant.
The assistant pro.
But the idea is to talk to the historical people to see if that makes sense to them. But also, I like his idea of checking with a plaster.
I think that
Okay.
was the best thing I took out of it, to have some just plaster, and if you don't have to paint it, just plaster over it.
I'll probably need help finding who that might be.
I know one guy.
Okay.
And as far as
Oh, more hands up.
one,
Oh, tell me later, okay?
the,
I just,
real quickly, as far as the funding of this is concerned, this is a significant piece of change here.
Yeah.
We may have to modify, we may have to pay for it out of other
Out of
areas.
other funds?
Yeah, we can take it out of my salary.
Okay, take it out of your salary and mine too.
Yeah, take it out. But the point is that we need to do it right,
Yeah,
rather than just do it piecemeal based on what's in the checkbook at the time.
okay,
Is that, we agree on that? Okay, so let's at least explore that.
all right.
Not that we're giving you a blank check, you understand?
Oh,
But anyway, I think it's worth exploring doing it right. We agree on that?
okay.
You had a comment?
I know.
just a suggestion, the state preservation people, I'm sure this is not the first time that they have had a building that might have this issue. They probably have consultants that they can call on.
Yeah, they
if you
may have
ask
that.
them about that.
Well, actually, interestingly, you say that because they may not. Because I got a phone call from the woman who is the person in charge, asking me if this other group that's working on their town hall, if I knew of a painter or somebody, so it's like, huh? So, they may not know, but it's worth a try.
It's worth a try.
It's worth a try. Okay, so I shall come back with more information.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thanks for the legwork on that, by the way. This is awesome.
So as long as I may get a little bit more money, not that I'm planning on
Yeah.
that, but it certainly, I think, is important that we just don't do a half, you know, what kind of job.
Yeah, this is a tough job. We should get it right.
Right.
Like the sills.
Yes, like the sills, precisely. All right, up for public concerns. I think, Jason, you had the first attempt at that.
Yeah, Jason Hans. Question, with the roads. So if a small tree goes down, I'm happy to clear it, and I'm not on West Jamaica Road, so that's not a problem. If a big tree goes down that I can't handle, I'll call you. If a big tree goes down like it did last week and it takes out the electrical on the telephone, I called those guys, Green Mountain Power and Consolidated, but I didn't call you. Should I call, should I bother, because I know you can't touch it because the electrical lines are on.
Well, I think the road guys probably already know it. They've been out and about, unless that was just a windstorm. I
Well,
don't
it
think
fell
I was
on my
gone.
property like right when I was there, so
Oh.
I was like, okay, I'm gonna call, but I didn't call the road crew, 'cause I didn't know if they could do anything, and should I bother them?
Was it over the road?
Yeah,
Usually that they see anything touching wires, they just call the power company.
but would they wanna be there even, should I call, like, if something like that happens again, should I have called them?
I don't know,
Well,
they're not electricians, but
yeah, the general marching orders are, if there's a wire, we don't touch it. And so they come up and look at it and say, oh, there's a wire, we're not gonna touch it.
Right.
And they go back to plowing or whatever. The fire department will come up if there's fire, obviously. We can get if it's a big, and it's gonna block the road off, we can, the road guys can come in and put up, road signs. For example, if you're on West Jamaica, just stick up a road closed sign at the intersection of West Jamaica and X Falls.
Okay, so next time I'll call.
Yeah, just to be able to block the road off. But as far as cutting the trees concerned, they're not gonna touch it until.
No, that's why I knew they couldn't touch it, so I didn't bother calling, but there are other reasons, I guess, to call, just so they know, to put up
Exactly.
signs to keep people.
Yeah, give them a heads up so they can, they put a sign up at Forester
Right.
intersection and another one down, yeah, just to let people know that you go there, you're there for the day.
Right.
that or the cops. Actually, call anyone but me.
Well, part of the other thing too is that
I'm just kidding.
one of the reasons it's good to keep in touch with us, because we also have to let Keene Mutual Aid know. Because if there's any kind of emergency traffic up there, we gotta know not to go all the way up to your tree, turn around and go back around. So anytime there's a significant stretch of road closed, we need to know about it. We will call key emergency and let them know the road is closed, even though we may not be responding to a fire. We know the road's closed. In case something does come up, we don't, like I say, go up the wrong way. So it's always a good idea to keep us informed. And don't touch it yourself.
And what number to call?
You can call 911 if you have to.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, and give them a heads up, the tree's down, the road's closed, and they will let us know. But if you can get a hold of, if you,
Well, I don't wanna, yeah.
if you don't want to call 911, because they're gonna send us out, we're gonna look, yeah, the road's closed. But it's always call Keith, and he has got an answering machine. During the day, you can get a hold of somebody here.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, just because we don't want people, you know, getting touched. And don't go near them. All wires are lit, they're hot until you,
Even if they think it's cable, they leave it.
yeah.
The road guys do.
Stay in your car.
Stay, yeah, but away. Exactly, and remember, for those of you who are paying attention, the area of electrification has to do with the moisture content of the dirt and a bunch of other stuff. So you don't even want to walk near it. Editorial's over. Yeah, thanks. You have a question? Identify.
Addressing the volume problem, Dan Cummins,
Yeah.
addressing the volume problem at the town meeting.
Yeah,
It's a suggestion you might want to think about getting a condenser mic, which is set up similar to this. $150, whatever, it should cover
Yeah.
everybody on the stage.
let's see what we've got now. I'm not even sure we have.
They're just
Get
open.
more familiar with that.
That's 58s or whatever.
Yeah.
What are they called? Less than 58s. Standard.
Yeah,
Like we have in the show.
Cord, you have to pass it around.
It's parabolic mics is what they are, they're not condenser mics, so you put something here and,
Dan, I think if we move up to the edge, we could take 2 steps and make it easier.
yeah, we'll play it by ear.
Yeah, the next year, if that doesn't work, we'll all
Test things
mingle
out.
with everybody.
It's set up in the middle.
Yeah, we can sit in the middle, we'll have a round.
We have little mics with buttons, you know?
Yeah. Okay, any other public concerns? Any other non-public concerns?
Motion to adjourn.
I have 2 motions to adjourn. Would you like to be second? He was first.
I'll do second.
He's second. Thomas second. Any further discussion?
No.
Trying to think of anything I had. I'll hit you guys with this. We got ads. The bottom.
Do we vote?
All in favor, say aye. No, I was thinking if I needed to bring this up, I'll pass them out later. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 8:28.